I've been involved with NATO, around NATO, on NATO issues for a good part of my professional career. I served twice at NATO, once in the late 80s. At that time it was the beginning of the Gorbachev time. So the big issue at that time, the big political discussion at NATO at that time was, who is Gorbachev? Can we trust Gorbachev? And that's when that great season of disarmament treaties began. We signed a treaty or a memorandum at NATO once a month, basically, with the Russians or among us allies. So that had a big impact on me. And then the events of the following decades, with once again the collapse of the Soviet Union and the end of the Warsaw Pact. My name is Claudio Bisogniero. I'm the Italian ambassador in the United States. Up to 2 months ago, I was the NATO Deputy Secretary General. I was very happy to be at NATO at that time. I'm now the ambassador of Italy, and I'm very happy to be the Italian ambassador in the US. And then I was back in the last 5 years in this new responsibility and capacity. I've been struck by the capacity of the alliance to adapt to new realities, to change continuously to this new reality. It is not anymore a closed defense structure as it used to be at the time of the Cold War. It is now a provider of security, and it is now NATO able to, I think, project stability and security on a wider area. So that's the meaning of NATO to me. I think that NATO, for Italians and for Europeans in general, represents the symbol, the most visible symbol of the transatlantic link, the link between Europe and the United States. It's a link in security, it's a link in values, as I said, and it's a political link. The world is a fairly complicated place out there. It is becoming more and more complicated these days. Globalization has many positive aspects, of course, but it also has some security implications. And the end of the Cold War did bring, according to some, the end of history, but according to others, it brought a more complicated world to deal with. NATO, of course, is a very important military alliance, joined together by the pillar of NATO, which is the Article 5 of the treaty, the collective defense commitment of NATO. But NATO is also a very important political body in which the member states of NATO meet on a day-to-day basis and discuss any political issues which is on the agenda of the alliance. And frankly, Italy has always been a very strong proponent of this political dimension of NATO. We have contributed actively to this dimension. I think without NATO, there would not be a body ready to tackle these challenges. There is no substitute for NATO. There is no other body in the international community that is ready on a permanent basis to address these issues. NATO has come a long way. It has really come a long way in adjusting itself to the new threats and challenges and to the new way of doing business that we need to have today compared to what it was at the time of the Cold War, of the Soviet Union, of the Warsaw Pact, and all of that. All of that is history.